Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome you all to the very first panel of what is going to be a fantastic day of panels. And I wanted, before we get started, just take a moment to thank all the folks who have been behind the scenes organizing this incredible weekend. Can we give them some love? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. And just to set the frame for the whole day, I just want to also harken back to the website that had this beautiful sort of outline of like code of conduct and intention for the day and the whole weekend in terms of us showing up and just supporting each other and like supporting each other's art and work and love and like coming in with positive vibes and intentions, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I am here this morning and I have the honor to start off everything by interviewing someone who no one's ever heard of before, Scott Ryan. Yeah.
And that audience reaction back up.
He's someone who really needs no introduction, but for those of you who might have some semblance of who he is who doesn't quite know, he's the author of a lot of books sitting on this table behind Melanie, and please come up and grab some, which include the Moonlighting and Oral History book and The Last Days of David Letterman, and he also works with the Blue Rose magazine and has had a million podcasts and has done a million amazing interviews and is just a wonderful friend, and I'm really excited to talk to him this morning about his book, Fire Walk With Me, Your Laura Disappeared. Who's read this book? Yay! Yes! It is a fantastic book, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. Who was there last night at the movie? Who saw the movie? Only a few folks. Okay. Shout out to Colin, Diana. We won the trivia. Hell yeah, we kicked ass. It was awesome. It was so much fun. So it was really nice to see the movie again. But I thought I would start off this conversation by just sharing when I first saw Fire Walk With Me in the movie theater. It was in the mid-2000s, and it was in San Francisco at the Castro Theater. Anyone been to San Francisco in the Castro Theater? And so I was so happy because it was hella gay like me, and everyone was dressed up in elaborate costumes, and I just came in as like a very kind of Moira Kelly Donna, and I didn't know anybody, and I was by myself, and everybody, there was like a Waldo, someone was Waldo with a bird cage with bird feathers coming out of it, and I was like, wow, I love San Francisco so much. And so, but I was by myself, and I watched the movie, and it was hugely transformative to see it in the movie theater, on the big screen, listening to the music, listening to all of what was coming in. But I was by myself, and I went through the traumatic experience of seeing Fire Walk With Me by myself. And I felt really lonely at the end. And then afterward, everyone was, drinking and having fun. And there was this girl up on stage dressed as Laura, and she was doing the picnic dance, everyone with me on the picnic dance. And her boyfriend was there, and he had a beer with him, and he was like, and he handed me the beer, and I was like, I don't know you, but he handed me the beer, and then she just looked at me and she goes, chug a lug, Donna. And I was like, okay, and she brought me up and we did the dance together, and I just felt like, okay, this is what the community is, this is what matters, this is Twin Peaks. And anyway, I wanted to share that story because that was the first time that I saw Fire Walk With Me in the theater. And you talk about your first time seeing it, and I wonder if you could share about that with us now.
I also dressed as Moira Kelly, but that's just how I do every day. I actually saw the film on opening night in an extremely small theater in Massillon, Ohio, which is where I was from. And there really was not that many people there, but it was decent. And everyone hated it. I mean, across the board. But I loved it. And I remember we went out afterwards and gathered in the parking lot, and everyone was like, that was so horrible. Like, what was that about? And it wasn't funny. And, it was Cooper Bob. What's going on with all of that stuff? And I just was so moved by Cheryl Lee. Like, at that point, I was not a Cheryl Lee obsessive. Like, Laura Palmer wasn't really my favorite character. Because really in the series, she has that baby voice. And it's just, I don't know, I never bonded with Laura through the series. I was 100% an Audrey Horne. Like, that was what Twin Peaks was to me. But after Fire Walk with Me, it all became Laura.
I think one of the great things about this book is that it takes you back to the first time that you see Fire Walk with Me, and it helped me remember that time, and I appreciated that about the book. There's a lot of your personal relationship to the film and to the story that comes in the book. You also share a lot of your personal memorabilia and collection. Is there anything that sticks out that you would want to share here?
Well, most of it I stole from Video Time. It's out of business, so they can't sue me. But I stole the videotape the day it came out. I don't know if any of you know how expensive VHS tapes were, but to buy Fire Walk with Me was $117. I made $59 a week. That was my paycheck. And the reason I know that is I still have the stub from buying when the 7 episodes came out. And I had to work 3 weeks to pay for that. But so when Fire Walk with Me came out, I was like, well, I gotta steal this because I have to own it. And so I had a friend come in, and I was like, okay, get the tag. I hid the tag for Fire Walk with Me behind some crappy movie, and I was like, bring it up to me, we'll do a little thing, I'll pretend to fill out the paperwork, you take it out. I threw the paperwork away, and I stole that bitch. And I feel good about it. They got 3 copies. Nobody in Massillon, Ohio. 3 people were never renting Fire Walk with Me on the same night in Massillon, Ohio. It was never going to happen. But then I stole the movie poster. I stole the Red Room. Does anyone have the Red Room pull thing? It's amazing. They had that on the counter. It never made it to the counter. It came into the store. It went in my car. That's probably why no one rented it, because there was no posters up. Everything. I ripped every page out of every magazine that had anything with Fire Walk with Me in it. I have a fold-out that has a trivia question. Stole that. I tried to steal. I stole the thermos, but I couldn't steal the T-shirt. So there's a T-shirt that was supposed to smell like Douglas firs, which really is kind of gross. But the owners had that, and I called them at home. And I'm just a peon, 21-year-old college kid, and I just called them, and I'm like, could I have that T-shirt that had Fire Walk with Me? My name is Scott Ryan. I work at store 497. The answer was no. So I didn't get that. So screw them.
And you drank out of the thermos, which is really gross.
I drank out of the thermos for the first time on one of the anniversaries. Now I can't remember. I think it might have been the 30th of the pilot. I've never even cracked it. It's plastic. It's like one of those old, it's really cool. There's a picture of it in the book. And I was like, I'm drinking coffee out of it. This is going to be so good. Oh my God, it was disgusting. The air in there has never been cracked for 25 years. But the good thing is I never got COVID, and I think that's why.
It's the 30th anniversary of the film, and you say that it isn't the movie that's changed, it's just that the audience finally caught up to the story and the difficult art that David Lynch served us.
Yes, everybody in that audience wanted to see what happened with Cooper once he said, how's Annie, how's Annie, how's Annie? They wanted to know what happened to that toothpaste in there. That's how specific they wanted Fire Walk with Me to continue. And David Lynch wasn't telling that story. He wanted to bring Laura's trauma to the screen. And that, there was talk last night at the signing about if the missing pieces should be put back in. But the majority of the missing pieces are not about Laura's trauma, so we can tell what Lynch's intentions were. I think now when people watch Fire Walk with Me, it's known. It's known that you're going to experience Laura's trauma. And you now have the return for what happened with Cooper. So I think now people can honestly see Fire Walk with Me for what it is, which is Laura's story. Yes, Cooper is there. I mean, he certainly guides her at the end, and he's in it a little bit. But I'm so thankful that Chris Isaac is there, because I think if Cooper would have been in those 20 minutes, or I think it's 29 minutes, people would have even been more disappointed, which I know sounds backwards, but then they'd be like, oh crap, so we got Kyle MacLachlan and you can't tell me what happens after? And it's not about Kyle, it's not about Cooper, it's about Laura.
It's her story. Well said. You, in this book, and those of you who have read it know this, that he breaks down the Badalamenti Lynch score, and of course you can't cover all the 49 tracks but for the soundtrack, but I love the ones you chose, and as you read it, I recommend listening to them on headphones as you read along. It creates a full experience. So what do you love about this score, and how does it, transform you into Laura's world in this movie?
Well, I mean, obviously the music in Twin Peaks is incredible, and I wouldn't take anything away from what it did for the series, but it's like Angela went to this next level with Fire Walk with Me that is insane as an artist. Like, I'm not on the same level of Angela, of course, but like, I don't know, I feel like when you have a project ahead of you, you're always nervous, are you gonna live up to what you did before it, no matter what it is? And he had to start working on that score. I mean, it's like 3 months between this. He had his biggest career break. The album went gold and all this stuff. And I just imagine, like, the series is canceled and he's like, whew. And then David calls and is like, I need a whole movie score. And you're like, what the? Can we use the old stuff? Oh, no. Like, what? And he crushes it. He does it so, like, it's so much, it's like the grown-up. It's like the Twin Peaks music is like the teenager, and then this is the grown-up score. And I don't understand why jazz artists are not covering Sycamore Trees. I think Michael Bublé, Madeline Peru, Diana Krall, they should be doing Sycamore Trees on every jazz album. I think this is I'm actually glad that people are starting to do covers of their music, but it's taken 30 years, and that's crazy to me.
What's your go-to track that you listen to and go back to again and again from the movie?
Definitely the theme from Fire Walk with Me. I can't really pick between the saxophone version or the trumpet version. I love them both. But I think and I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting here in Twin Peaks, I think it's the best theme song written for any movie ever. Suck it, John Williams. But it sums up Laura Palmer so perfectly. It has a bass that, to me, is rock and roll, and that we equate with sex, which is definitely Laura Palmer. It has that synth of scariness, those chords that kind of come in. They're not the same as the Laura Palmer theme, but it makes you uneasy. And then you either have the trumpet or you have the sax, and you put all those things together. That is what this movie is. It's a mixture of moods, each mood classic in its own way, and David's going to give it all to you in one damn movie.
Very well said.
What is your favorite song from? Am I allowed to ask you a question?
No.
What is your favorite song
I
from Fire Walk
can't
with
say
Me?
my favorite. I can't
Is
say
it a
my
secret?
favorite. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we don't know them that well, so wait till we get to know them better, then we'll share.
I want to just say that there are incredible interviews in this book, right? Those of you who have read it, there's incredible interviews. Talk to us about, how you got these interviews, any highlights from any of them, and I could ask you so many questions about each of them, but just what comes to mind?
I have compromising pictures of Sabrina Sutherland, and that's how I get these interviews, I'm just like, Sabrina, it's gonna happen now. It takes work and persistence. I contact everyone all the time. I try, I'll go through Twitter, I'll go through Facebook, I've gotten them through LinkedIn, going through their agents, their publicists. You just keep trying, and you try to let them know that I'm honestly interested in their work. I'm not trying to get something from someone. It's just, especially someone like Ron Garcia, who is so important to Twin Peaks. I mean, you hate to order it, but Like, he's probably in the top 5 of people who truly, if you think of something you love from Twin Peaks, it probably came from Ron. He's the one that photographs the fan. That was Ron. Like, you know, he was the one that went out and got the blowing trees. He set up a camera to get the stoplight. Now, he didn't know David was going to use them in this way, but David wasn't even up here when he did all that. So Ron Garcia was sent here by David to get that stuff. Now, Ron's very quick to say, I didn't know David was going to use it in those ways. The day they filmed at the Pink Room, everybody else went home. Ron set up that cigarette shop and to get, like, because he had said, like, he had been to a party once and he saw the floor and he thought that would be a cool way to end. But then he's like, you know, David then had the idea of fading from that to the blowing trees to Laura and Donna on the couch. You know, so it's that combination. But what Ron Garcia did, I'm just so glad to get that interview in this book because I don't think he's been given the props that he really should.
Yeah, and you have also Greg Feinberg, and he tells you this anecdote about David Bowie and another one about a pig fetus, which I don't want to give away because everyone should read Scott's book, but it's pretty amazing. And had Greg been interviewed a lot before?
No, I don't think so. I think people forget about him, and I'm actually one of the people who forget about him. So I had the Fire Walk With Me poster has been hanging above my computer since 1992 when I bought it at a Spencer's Gifts in a mall. I just walked through and holy crap, there was Laura Palmer. Side note, I bought it and then went to the food court. And a little kid came walking by, and Laura Palmer was just standing there because it was on cardboard, and he punched Laura Palmer in the face and kept walking, and everyone at the table held me back. They didn't go for the kid, they just stopped. They were like, don't, he's a little kid, don't. Like, I'm sure that kid is in jail now. But anyway, so I was working on the book. I was trying to get interviews and doing things, and I just look at the poster. That's how I always spell Angelo's name when I'm writing. I always look at the poster, good, got it right. And then I just saw produced by Greg Feinberg, and he's the only producer on the film. Now, Mark and David are executive producers, but you know, the producer does a lot different work than the executive producer. You know, Mark Frost is not, you know, calling up to get a filming location or whatever. And I thought, how is this movie produced by one person, and why have I never talked to them? And I kind of looked around, and nobody really had talked to him. I'm not 100% sure if Brad Dukes, if he's in Brad's book. Anyone know? No one knows. So he was not in Brad's book. But I just contacted his people, and I thought, never going to happen, because he's gone on to do huge television. Deadwood, which I think is one of the greatest shows ever. Big Little Lies. He's working on a show right now for HBO called The Plumbers that I think is going to be great. And he wanted to talk. And he tells stories that I have never heard before, and people who've read the book have also said. The story of how Fire Walk With Me was born, I don't think anyone has ever heard before. And it's in the book.
Of course, the book ends with an incredible interview with Cheryl. Do you want to share anything about how it was to talk with her, especially as your relationship with Cheryl has evolved over the years?
I mean, interviewing Cheryl is like the craziest thing. One, because she's so important to me in a ridiculous way, and every time I've tried to tell Cheryl what she means to me, she doesn't want to hear it, and she knocks it off immediately, you know, because so many people put that on her, and I try not to like overdo it, but it's also hard. She's freaking Laura Palmer. It's hard not to react, and then you also want to remain professional. And then on the flip side, you know that she's had to talk about this stupid movie and this show for 32 years. Like, are you really going to get something from her that she hasn't been asked? And So I'm sensitive to that as well. So I really try to not ask her a question she's been asked before. And it's hard, because she doesn't want to answer a lot of things. And you have that Barbara Walters moment where like, am I going to go after my hero, or do I want her to like me? I mean, so you kind of balance. But I feel like she does open up in this interview a little bit. You're never going to get, she is filled with secrets. I mean, she really is. And I respect her for keeping them, because so many people just spill everything. They would even like tell a story of stealing a videotape at a video store in public. And I'm so sick of that. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine what she must be holding, right, after all of these years of being Laura Palmer and having people tell her their world and their trauma and their secrets, and just how the impact of that and the legacy of being her in the world at events or just around, and even in interviews too.
Well, and I've been lucky enough to go to a couple events with Cheryl, and I watched her all day have these young girls come up to her, and they can't talk, and they cry, and Cheryl doesn't keep them with everyone else. She will take them, and she'd go back here, and she hugs them, and they're having this talk, and I don't know what they're saying, but we know what they're saying. And so the next day, I was Cheryl's sound person, so I had to mic her up, and while I was doing that, I said, I see how you take care of people, and that's really incredible, and that you do that every day. And she said, well, you must be an incredible person to notice that. And that's what I'm saying, like she doesn't take things, and I'm like, stop putting this on me, like this is a compliment for you, but I think she has to be closed off, because she just can't take that anymore. And I don't know of another actor who has to do that. I mean, I know that Josh cried when he met George Griffith last night, and George was really sensitive with him. Thanks, George. But most Twin Peaks actors don't have to take that, and Cheryl does. She always has to be prepared for someone to share their trauma with her, and that's incredible to have to do that.
My favorite chapter in the book, which is no surprise to you, is chapter 11, the one that is meant to help, where you talk about writing the chapter at the Salish and remembering your time there with Catherine Coulson. Will you share a little bit about that with us now?
No.
Fair.
I mean, I hate that chapter with all my heart. I hate that it's out there. I hate that people read it. I hate that I get emails about it, because I'd rather be a comedian than be honest. But I felt that I had to sort of talk about my journey and all the women that's helped me get there, because you don't go from answering phones at Time Warner Cable and pretending you understand what an internet access is, which I was doing in 2015, to being able to like sit across from your heroes and interview them. Like, it doesn't happen alone. And it really did happen because I met Catherine Coulson and she was so nice to me. It happened at the Salish. We were here for what used to be the Twin Peaks Festival, and we had never met anyone. I'd never been here before. I'd never met a Twin Peaks person, and I'm walking around the Salish gift shop, and I look over, and there's the log lady holding up a log that they're selling there. And like, I mean, what the fuck? And I just walked right up to her, and I'm like, hello, you're the log lady. And she said to me, oh, would you take a picture of me? Because I want to show my kids that I really did something in life. And I said, you're the log lady. Like, you did something. And I just thought it was so weird. And then she said, is my hat okay? And I'm like, yeah, you're beautiful. Like, yeah, I'll take a picture. And then I'm like, could I maybe get a picture? And 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in my cubicle, and I see on the internet, she's dead. and she had cancer. And so that's why she was worried about her hat. You know, that's why she was worried about her legacy. I, as a fan, you know what I mean? Like, she was the log lady. She's bigger than life to me. And then I realized we were having this human moment, this artistic human moment back and forth. And she didn't put any of that on me. You know, she gave me that moment. She had to be suffering. She had to be in pain. And I just remember standing up in my cubicle, looking at those horrible lights that are in, you know, and phones ringing. And I looked at people this way and that way, and nobody, you know, you can't say to the person like Catherine Coulson died. They don't care. They don't know who she is. It's like JFK was assassinated, you know. And I was like, I'm not dying in this cubicle. And, you know, I started the Blue Rose magazine 6 weeks later.
Here's some love. That's amazing.
And which is so stupid. Don't start a print magazine in a digital age. Don't do that. Don't try to revive the typewriter. It's not coming back. But I just was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And Cheryl helped me that way. And, you know, I know it's just a TV show. I get that.
But it's what I think so many of us, well, I don't want to speak for all of us in this room, but a lot of us are attracted to this world and to this art because we've experienced pain and suffering and mental health challenges and all of that. And so this chapter in this book really spoke to me as someone with mental health experiences. And, you know, you talking about your depression and being real about that is huge. And then how the show and directly those two people inspired you to be well in the world and do something different with your life is hugely inspiring, Scott.
I don't think anyone here is going to agree with you that I'm well. But I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, you're in a much different place, it seems like, and you're doing what you love, which is really important, right? Making art, making this incredible book.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's as close as you're going to get.
It's as close as I can get. It's as close as I can get. Yeah. Okay, so, you know, the title of your book, Your Lord Disappeared, I didn't realize until a recent rewatch, is what she says to James. Do y'all remember that?
Yep.
To be honest with you, when I first saw that this book was coming out, I thought you were talking about, it was referencing something about the return, like, oh, she disappeared, like maybe became Carrie Page or something else. What would you say to someone who also may have thought that? Because I know I'm not the only one.
No, Brian from Twin Peaks Unwrapped said the same thing to me, and I never even thought about that. And someone else pointed out, after the book was printed, that I actually never mentioned that it's the scene from James in the book. Because, again, it's just sort of, when you know Twin Peaks so well, I don't know, I just didn't think about it. But it definitely has a play on words for me because I would never say Cheryl Lee and I are friends, but I know her. She could pick me out of a police lineup. And getting to know her made my Laura disappear. And now when I see the film, it always was a mystery to me how an actress could do that. I wanted to know, how did she cry like that under that bush in front of the Palmer's house? Like, you've seen a million actresses cry, but her cry is bigger. It's realer. She's truly going through those things. But now that I know Cheryl Lee, I know how she did it. That's how she orders breakfast. I mean, that's her. She is that genuine every second of her life. So getting to know her let my Laura disappear. So it wasn't really about the return, like everything, it was about me.
People are laughing because they know. What is your relationship like to Fire Walk with Me now, after having engaged with it this way to create this incredible book?
I think exactly the same, which I think it's the only thing I ever worked on that I feel that way. Like, I mean, it will be years before I could watch Moonlighting again, just because you live in it for a year and then I don't want to go back to it. But with this book, it wasn't that way because one thing is I didn't watch the film over and over again. I didn't need to. I know it. And it's like a time capsule for me of like that period of my life where I wasn't doing what I was meant to do, which to me is how I view Laura Palmer. I know people of abuse look at her in a certain way. That's not what I see in Laura Palmer. I see someone who puts on a social face, and that's what I did for so much of my life. That still is what the movie represents to me. I don't think that'll ever change, but I don't watch the movie very much anymore. When I watch it, I want it to really come over me, so I would probably watch it once every 10 years. So.
There's a special surprise in the back of the book, which is a really incredible poem that you wrote. And I'm wondering if you feel up to reading it to us now, and you can say no.
I mean, I hate you for asking.
We'll still be friends after this, right?
No, it's over.
Okay.
I mean, I can. I don't want to, but I will. If I really hate you.
You want to hear the poem, right, everybody?
No, shut up. So I'm not a poet by any means, and I will never write another poem again. I can tell you that. That doesn't start with Nantucket. But I wanted to say something about the film, and I didn't know how else to do it. And I want to say that I call her Televixen. I don't know if you know her. She's Mary. What's her last name? No.
Serwinski.
You mouthed it to me. Like Serwinski. Mary Serwinski is a poet, and she helped me quite a bit. It's called Epilogue. The pain remains amongst the voice of love refrains. No hand upon my shoulder now. Alone. Darkness shone, but out of it I've flown. Her smile defies. Tears. Freezing in the meanwhile, suffering in my style, she lives, yet she dies. Hope. Drown the mask, no time to bask, rest upon a wooden shelf. Future. I endure, many of us because of her, while she damn near lost herself. I give thanks to our angel. And that's the only way I could thank Cheryl. Like, I've never told Cheryl about that poem. She doesn't know about it. I haven't sent her the book. She doesn't want to read that book. But, to me, that's so much about how Cheryl has saved all of us, and in big ways and small ways. And I hate you.
That was beautiful. That got me, Scott. Isn't that a powerful poem with good piece? I love that, and I love that you end the book with it. And this is also a book that I would recommend everyone read the thank yous. It's like even the thank yous are Scott Ryan. They're wonderful. They're very fun. Maybe we could take some questions, but before we do that, do you want to talk about Fist of Love?
Oh, yeah. My next book is Lost Highway, The Fist of Love.
Do you have that somewhere? Or?
I don't know. Is it over there? Is it around?
No.
I don't know. I thought it.
I threw it in the trash.
Yeah, Melanie threw it away, and it's the one I have. Oh, I'm sitting on it. Like all my books, I pulled it out of my ass. This is my next book. It's The Fist of Love. It's similar to Fire Walk with Me, where I interviewed Patricia Arquette. Is that not freaking crazy? It's my first Oscar-winning. My interview didn't win an Oscar, but she is an Oscar-winning actress. And the Peter Deming, and it actually has a lot of Twin Peaks stuff in there. Anyone who worked with Lynch, Sabrina's in there. The cameraman, Scott Ressler, which is that's like the interview that no one's got before. That guy knows everything. And it's about Lost Highway, and we're taking. Anyone have any questions about Fire Walk with Me? In the back, in the red hat.
Who's your favorite Donna?
Great question.
100% Moira Kelly.
That's a correct answer.
Who's mad at me for that? So Mel Reynolds, who is a filmmaker and Twin Peaks fanatic,
just said on M's podcast a great theory about why there's two Donnas, because Maura Kelly is the Donna Laura sees. Laura Flamborough is the Donna that Donna sees, like that's Donna. And it's interesting, so in that case it matters that they flip, but to me Maura Kelly plays the character as written. Laura Flamborough played Donna the way she wanted Donna to be and pushed Donna to become something that I'm not sure Mark and David wanted from her. That's just my opinion. I love Laura Flamborough, but no one is not happy with me. Who's happy with Donna? So, it's understandable. I mean, I do like her, but to me, Laura Kelly plays the role. So you're correct, George, and you think Mara? I mean, the thing that I think, I really do like the Donna character on the show, but you know, Donna and James are very soapy, and that's hard to compare them with the grown-ups. But if Maura was playing that Donna that way, I don't know that she would have become as harsh. I don't know. It's hard to say, but we all wish that the cast was the same, but it doesn't always work that way. So, I don't know. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
I have a question. So, I don't know if this is about kissing possibly somebody in the room, but I walked to the movie last night, and I laughed because people started laughing. And I wonder how you feel about, if you have an opinion about that, because sometimes I realize that I've watched them in group cast sessions, where there's charts on the side, and if the other serious person that people start making quick, funny things, and I have seen it a couple times, but I don't feel it anymore. So I just wondered if you had anything to say about that.
So her question is how you feel about people laughing through the movie. So I'm going to answer that with Grace and Whiskey's response, because she gives a great response about that, because a lot of people laughed at her acting in the pilot when she's screaming on the phone, and she says it was people being uncomfortable, and that's what David does. So they're not laughing like it's an Adam Sandler comedy. Like, they're not laughing in that way. Those people, they're uncomfortable. They are being put in a place. Maybe someone actually went and asked me to read the poem. But see, I don't think I think they're uncomfortable, and they don't, that movie's hard. I can't think of a movie that confronts something that dark and that open, and Em and I were having a conversation this morning about the scene where Bob crawls in the window, and, people could be making fun of that, and it's not because of what's on the screen, it's because that is some dark shit. So, you keep your love for it, and I say you don't worry about that. They don't mean it. They don't know how to process what's going through them. But that being said, I would never watch that movie film cast where somebody was texting and then no. But I understand it's the age of the internet. To me, when you watch a movie, you put your phone down, you turn the lights off, you don't look at anything, you don't pause. If you want to pee, you wear diapers.
I think that just kind of like psychotherapy, I feel for everybody. From psychotherapy perspective, that a lot of times, when people talk about trauma, they might smile or laugh. And so there's this like, it's not congruent on with what's actually being said. So I don't know about what was happening last night, but just to out of that can happen a lot. So it's just, too much stomping out of the movie theater, all upset, was not
There was somebody who was like, who could stop out on that movie? Right now, running on the internet. Stop out of David Lynch's movie. And I was just about ready to say something really funny. I mean, people on the internet are horrible, so that's the first thing. Yeah, it's true. So don't worry about what others say. Keep your love for it. Any other questions? We've got how long is this one? It's for jokes. The attractive woman up front.
Who has been your favorite person to interview? Behind the scenes, not celebrity, but behind the scenes.
Right now, my brain is all lost highway because that's how it is when you work on projects. And the Debbie Zayer interview is incredible. I mean, I love smart women. That just gets me going. So freaking smart. And what she did in Lost Highway, and of course for the Tron, is incredible. And even, I was just on Twin Peaks and Rock talking about it, and, that's all right, it was Andrew Grievous that said, like, well, I could tell she made you emotional, and she really did. Like, her story is so incredible, and I'm really trying to get her to write a book for our company, because her story is just unbelievable. So right now, I would say that is my favorite. Anyone else? I don't even know if everybody left. Please don't call me. I'm not missing anything. So, alright. Well, let's wrap it up. If anybody wants a copy of the book, we have some here. We've got 4 copies for $20. I'm happy to sign for it.
The cool pictures in this thing are worth everything. They're so beautiful. So definitely buy that one. Just want to say, let's get started tomorrow.